I've got a problem here today, and baseball in this town and the Marlins have a problem here today in that I genuinely want to talk about this Marlins team. They've beaten the Dodgers 2 straight here, and somehow September is here, and they're playing games that matter, and it's been a long time since the baseball team felt that way. However, the problem I have is that Stugotz and Billy are off doing God Bless Football because today is football day because it's Thursday. They've got a lot of work to do this season, and Stugotz is hard to wrangle. And God Bless Football is going to come out here shortly to celebrate that the football season starts tonight with Kansas City and Detroit. Kansas City without Kelsey. He got injured seconds after I said at this microphone that he never gets injured. Seconds. Hyperextended knee. And Mike Ryan, who hasn't talked into a microphone for several days after putting several Hurricanes in the Ring of Honor on Friday after the win over Miami of Ohio, he's thundered in with his NFL hat, and he is desperate to talk all football things. And you guys told me when we were in the middle of those insane Panther and Heat runs, you told me that the Marlins could hide in the shadows and stay around, and then when it ended, capitalize on the momentum of people caring deeply about sports. If they still mattered, that we would pay attention. But Billy came in here yesterday as a father of 2 and said he's too tired for a deep playoff run. What do I do about this baseball team when Lucy doesn't want to talk about baseball? She wants to talk about how much she hates Kim Mulkey.
I hate her so much.
Jessica doesn't want to talk Marlins baseball. I can't get her out of her phone. I've got to do something about that.
I was Googling Marlins in case you ask me any questions about my Marlins. Dan, 3rd wild card spot. It's a big day for us.
Give us all of the information.
That's all I got.
That's all you got? Okay.
They retired Udonis Haslam's the number something happened.
That's today. That's today.
Hell yeah, my Marlins. Good move on
Panthers night last night.
One game Udonis Haslam night is tonight. They're going for 7 in a row. And I've got an overeager Jeremy Taché. Is there any other kind? I've got an overeager Jeremy Taché who is at the ballpark doing reporting, and he desperately wants to talk Marlins. But if you wanted that, you'd be listening to Jeremy Taché's podcast where he reports and talks to the players. It is an exciting time. I believe this team is fun to watch. They brought in those buddy cops on the corners, and they're just taking giant swings, and now Jazz Chisholm wants to hit the ball further than everyone else. But I don't think we're going to win today, Jeremy. I think Mike Ryan is going to want to get in here and talk Miami football of both kinds. And I think now it gets swamped because he also wants to talk about Blazers and Heat, and he wants to rail against podcasts at ESPN who continue to bash Tyler Hero. So what do I do with this? What is the audience? What do you think the local audience wants? The sport that's going on right now is not Dolphins. That we don't preview games. College football is going on, but we haven't talked at all about. We've talked more about Iowa State than we talked Miami of Ohio.
El Asico.
Who's calling it El Asico? And
America.
And is Trump still going to El Asico?
He still is.
He's this weekend.
He was not. If this game was at the University of Iowa, he would have not been invited.
Jeremy, give us a reason for the audience and for South Florida to support this against all odds Marlins team that, again, has won 2 straight against the Dodgers. And I ignore that Philadelphia is better than they are. Ignore that the Cubs and the Brewers are playing very good baseball, better than they are. Just make it about somebody's going to get in here who's not very good. A 4th team has a possibility of getting into, or you've got teams in the playoffs that can get in that aren't all that good. And the Marlins, the last time they did that, they were 30-31 when they played against the Cubs in the playoffs in the pandemic season.
This 3rd wild card spot has opened up things. To me, it was as good of an idea as any of the rule changes that baseball has had, because it's made so many of these teams that otherwise might be considered mediocre, like the Marlins have been predominantly in the second half of this season, get to hang around, go through bad stretches that they had, and still be here fighting for this playoff spot. What's really fun about this team is things are about to get really silly, because now that Sandy Alcantara is out, the Marlins are going to be using openers for 2 out of every 5 games that they pitch. And then you're going to have these other young starters just spackled throughout the lineup. Now, no Jorge Soler, their best power hitter. So what's going to happen? You're going to have Bell and Berger trying to hit homers, De La Cruz and Sanchez in the middle of the order doing weird things every time they come up. And really, Jazz Chisholm Jr. with an opportunity to lead this team to a wild card spot in a really cool time for Marlins baseball. Like, this is as fun as it's been down here in, I don't know, 10 years in terms of really chasing a wild card spot. It's exciting.
What kind of weird things are we talking? Like a weird little dance at the
That
plate?
was unusual analysis from him as our expert. They're going to start doing weird things.
If you don't want to see baseball get weird and silly, then you don't want to see baseball right now. Like that's
You're
the
right.
best version of baseball. No, but it's the best version of baseball. Like it will be a lot of fun, because this team, the word that they used a lot yesterday was getting creative, because they know, like, at this point, without their best power hitter, who was on pace to hit 40-plus homers and set Marlins records, and their ace, who won the Cy Young last year, who was eating up so many innings, it's going to be 3 weeks of what do we have to do today to win this game, including yesterday throwing Edward Cabrera, who was supposed to be one of their next aces, for 4 innings inexplicably in the middle of a game, and he was the best he's been all year.
Mike, before we get to the football stuff, have they lured you in? Because you only have so much fan width, and the Marlins have been they've managed to be interesting all season.
They had gotten third TV status from me, and then when they had the sports calendar to themselves, I thought they seemingly ended their season by struggling. So then I got back into football mode, and now they're playing well when I'm in football mode, and I just can't right now. I'm happy for them. I'm sure people that are deeply passionate are super excited that they got a second chance at life here.
We are.
I had already said goodbye to the season. So
I did a week ago.
Yeah, so this
right
is kind of annoying.
Before I said Kelsey never gets
This
injured.
is annoying.
It's a little annoying that I have to find a TV for it now to follow along. I am a big Josh Bell guy. He's randomly been on my fantasy baseball team that I force myself to have, so I know some of the names, because all I know are 1990s names. And I was happy when they acquired him, and he seems to have been an amazing acquisition.
I want to talk for a second about the fantasy grip that the country is under as football begins here, and you get something on your weekends that's a little bit different than fantasy in baseball and basketball and the other sports. Matthew Berry has a newsletter. You guys know that athletes have invested in this. He left ESPN because he's a beast. He's a fantasy beast. He has cornered sort of this area of expertise that has a giant following because of how desperate people are for good information, because everyone's a general manager, and that is coming on Sunday with a whole lot of old people who are not going to know where and how to find the red zone. There are going to be problems with people going to 990 on their DirecTV and not able to find that. What do you mean, YouTube? Calling the kids in from the other room?
They already added the channels on YouTube TV. I was scrolling last night. Oh, my God. The channels, Dan, the channels are there.
How different is it going to be? Is anything, how different other than just, you've got to be very careful with old people and things that are familiar to them, customs that are familiar. You can't, when Jeremy just mentioned, do you have any idea how much resistance the wild card got once upon a time in baseball? And it's the only thing that makes this Marlins season interesting. Otherwise, it would not be interesting, because they would have no chance to catch things like the Braves and the Dodgers. That was met with so much resistance as a terrible change. Bob Costas, loudest among anybody, and it's been a wonderful change. The viewing experience on Sunday, is it going to be any different at all because YouTube's in charge?
I don't think so, because it's still when Scott Hansen came along, that supplanted the Siciliano version, where the majority of people were experiencing him as host, and that remains to be true with this incarnation that's going to be on YouTube. So I don't think it's going to be that much of a shock to the system. I think most people understand how to put an app on their smart TVs at this point, and YouTube's interface, it's kind of like the iPhone. It's made for people that aren't necessarily tech savvy. So I think it'll be pretty easy to understand.
Our show has missed out on whatever it is the numbers are on fantasy football, though. We don't dabble in fantasy football expertise.
I assume you're using the royal we there, because we do. You
no, as content,
openly hate it.
As content. I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, you're the straw that stirs the drink here, pal. Like, you don't like it.
I don't like fantasy talk because it's so in the woods on information about who's going to do well that weekend.
Yeah, you don't like information? I mean, you're always on this search for info, and fantasy people sometimes can give you great insight to single-player props. I'm gambling again.
It's very dry. The
fantasy is dry?
The fantasy
I once saw Matthew Berry talk to a puppet. I mean, it's dry. But I'm not here to talk about football, honestly. I'm into the Marlins. I'm into what they're doing. Jazz is finally delivering on promise. He's playing really well. It just so happens to be at a weird time of the year. But Jazz, I've got good news for you. You are my Fast Twitch energy drink player of the week, presented by Gatorade. He is so twitchy. He is so great. So that honor bestowed upon you.
Why are you applauding? Are you applauding because he dropped in the advertising there, however awkwardly?
I'm being told right now it needs to be an NFL player.
Oh, God damn it.
Jazz, I apologize. Kadarius Toney, congratulations.
Very good.
Because you are powered by Fast Twitch Energy Drink this week.
Very good.
Powered by Gatorade.
KT, good job.
He's healthy, finally.
You've been talking about him for 3 years.
I believe.
For 3 years.
Hey, he had a big Super Bowl.
I mean, Andy Reid is going to reinvent him.
Him and Sky Moore, who is also twitchy.
Yeah.
A happy 80th birthday to Papi.
And happy birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck. Happy birthday.
Happy Bo.
The big 8.
I do care.
That is a big one for Papi. He celebrated last night, told me he had too much wine, too many appetizers, watched some Blue Bloods.
What about Columbo?
No, it was
Is that what Tom Selleck?
I don't know. No, he's still doing Magnum, isn't he?
No. They have a Magnum.
What?
I
PI.
thought he was doing, there was some
No.
remake of Magnum.
Yeah, but he's not in that. I believe he's in Blue Bloods with a Wahlberg.
Donnie Wahlberg.
Okay, so my father was watching that. He said the plot confused him, and I don't know if it was the complicated writing of Blue Bloods or the wine. Regardless, he was very happy because he slept the entire night, and he didn't have to get up and go to the bathroom.
Where do they air that? Ion?
Probably means you just peed the bed. From my experience, drinking too much. Being like, oh, I didn't have to wake up. There's a reason for that. Nothing personal with Papi. It's just business.
Well, you
Doing your business in the bed.
But Jessica, you told me before the show, I did not know this, and this is happening to me. I was searching for the name 2 Chainz to tell you that 2 Chainz is on God Bless Football with Stugotz and Billy, and I couldn't find the name. And Jessica mentioned that COVID has destroyed her memory, and I think that may have happened to me. I think my deterioration on this show and my memory for things, which has never been a problem before, is all post-COVID. I didn't know that was a thing. I was not aware that I thought temporary memory fog was a thing. I did not think a permanent memory loss was a thing.
Dan, you're just 53. I'm just kidding. No, but you're right. You're right. I had to get that joke in.
You've also dealt with a lot of stress, and that also affects it. But yeah, COVID brain was a real thing.
It is a real thing.
It made me turn to ginkgo. But, very marginal improvements.
My long-term memory is terrible. There are things that I know that I used to know that I can't remember anymore. And I'm not even 30 yet. That should not be happening.
That's why I do Immaculate Grid. It's kind of like stretching before exercise. I do Immaculate Grid in the morning, so I make sure I never forget who Eric Hosmer is.
Who can forget Eric Hosmer?
It's a local kid, but there was one day. It was Royals. I was like, Tien, who's the guy with the beard? Local.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Who could forget Eric Hosmer, yes or no? Mike, Jessica was making fun of you and the University of Miami yesterday because of their package ticket deal with Texas A&M, where they're selling tickets. And the Texas A&M game at home, the first big one of the season, should be something that it's easy to sell tickets for. And now there's a package deal with the Georgia Tech game, and UCF is making fun of the University of Miami. We'll play that. We'll put that graphic on the screen in a little while for you. But Jessica is right to make fun of this package ticket deal. It's a sad state of affairs.
Well, just to set the record straight, I wasn't making fun, Dan. I was delivering a stat. It was part of the long version of the stat of the day presentation yesterday, which you missed, Mike. It was electric. I did not provide any opinion. I was just stating a statistic, which is that they're offering BOGO tickets. If you go to the Texas A&M game, because tickets are not sold out yet, you get a free $3 ticket to the Georgia Tech game.
I hope she dragged him. I hope you all dragged him. It's a terrible look. Look, I mean, if the game's not well attended, number one, it's understandable. They ended last season on a 5-game losing streak, and people were calling for Mario Cristobal to be the FEMA director after people evacuated that stadium after 45-3. So I understand why this market's like, prove it. But for me, this is a self-inflicted wound. You can call it a mini plan. Hell, Florida State did one on July 4th where they sold 3 games for $17.76. Do a buy one, get one free, but have it be Bethune. But if you're going to do a buy one, get one for a conference game, you deserve the jokes. And that comes straight from the top, from a thoroughly unimpressive athletic director. That was his idea. It's terrible, and they deserve to be made fun of for that. And we finally have a positive feeling around the program. Finally, a good result in hand to be excited about, and now they're being made fun of again. It was a totally self-inflicted wound. I'm glad that they're getting made fun of it. It was a bad decision.
This is just what happens when you're not in a real power conference like the Big 12 or the SEC. When you're in a cash-poor conference like the ACC, this is just what you have to do. Sometimes those smaller schools, those smaller programs have to do things like this to get people energized about football. I understand it. You know, you just got to get to the big boys, Mike.
Mike, you were pretty loud not but a year ago, I think, on Radakovich being a good athletic director.
No,
somebody you wanted.
He was someone of repute. And I was excited that we got, when you look at someone that was coveted, everyone that followed college football assumed, well, he was there from the beginning of Clemson's run, so surely he had something to do with it. He built a lot of facilities, and I think that's what really is going to be Radakovich's legacy down here. He came down as a building builder, and if he gets those facilities, it's a job well done. But he's screwed the pooch on NIL early on. His messaging still remains to be bad. He made a couple of interesting hires to fill out his staff, people that handle funding that come from military academies that don't necessarily have that background. And with this idea, it just seems like someone that's not necessarily locked into the market. And I understand that. He doesn't even live down here. He commutes down here week to week. This is a guy that when he was hired, everyone kind of assumed this is a couple-year plan until he goes off to retirement and hopefully sets Miami up for the next phase. I'll give him that. If he builds these buildings and the facilities are good and it has Miami on level playing fields with some of the other programs that they're recruiting against, fine. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. During his tenure, you've made it to a Final Four. You've made it to an Elite Eight. So Radakovich is probably pounding his chest saying, hey, I've done a good job. But, I'm just waiting to be impressed. So far, I haven't been impressed.
It is such a bummer, though, because, we make fun of Miami a lot, and they're very easy to make fun of. But last year, going into the Texas A&M game that was at Texas A&M, we had a lot of fun doing the little bit with the little Gig'em thing that Mike and Chris Cody were doing, and it was such a hyped-up game, and it feels like the fact that it's not sold out, that, like, Texas A&M fans aren't even coming here to sell out the game is crazy. Like, there's just no hype about this game, and it's two teams last year that came in with all of these expectations. Like, Texas A&M was winning the portal, winning recruiting. Mario Cristobal was like injecting life into the Miami program. Both ended the season without even the opportunity to play in bowl games, 5-7, and now they're playing again the second leg of the home and home, and it's just completely flat. It's not even like one of the top 8 games I'll be watching this weekend.
Understandable. I think both programs kind of have to prove it. For Texas A&M, they've had several years of recruiting classes to stack up. Petrino is allowing Jimbo Fisher to take more of a management role and get back to recruiting and building relationships with players. That was a team that struggled with buying in and would come out flat in a lot of games. And Petrino's offense, for whatever your thoughts about the man, the proof is in the pudding. He's an elite offensive coordinator. I think you could take their wide receiver core and you could arguably say it's the best in the nation. They have really talented players on the outside. And I think it's going to be an interesting game. Whoever wins it is going to have reason to be optimistic about this season, but it's a national TV game at 3:30, and that's just program prestige that's doing that. I understand the excitement that was surrounding it last year, and it's a total 180, and it's deserved. It really is. Well, these programs have to prove it.
A couple of things. Jimbo Fisher, it's funny that you would pay that man that much. He can't develop a quarterback. Jameis Winston's the only one he's ever developed. Jameis Winston carried him to those riches. And that he has to now bring in Petrino to get offense, given the amount of money that they're paying him as a savior. But the other thing that I wanted to say about Radakovich, because this part is funny to me. Across my career in sports, I have met 2 classes of people outside of agents, 2 job classifications that get a lot of respect that I don't believe deserve it. A wildly unimpressive group of people. The first is television executives. The second is athletic directors. One of the least impressive television executives I've ever met went and became an athletic director.
At Syracuse?
I didn't say that. But I just want you to understand what these jobs are for these career bureaucrats and fundraisers. Like, you don't really dream of being an athletic director unless you failed at all of the other things in sports.
Well, there are some people. There are go-getters like anything, Dan, and I don't mean to impede your point, although I might.
You have. I was in the middle of it.
Yeah, but I'm coming around to that. I didn't know this about athletic directors, and the more involved that I get with the program, I understand how bureaucratic it is, and I find a lot of frustration in dealing with these bureaucrats.
It's a sales job. It's a glorified sales job. They go around and ask for money. And they run these corrupt systems. And the only group that's least executive is the guys wearing those bowl jackets, those hideous, loud bowl jackets.
The dream job.
Seriously.
Let me drink out of a snifter and eat wings and represent galleryfurniture.com. Please, God, let this happen for me. It's all I want in life. I want to give a firm handshake and be treated to a spread, charcuterie. Yeah.
Let me awkwardly present a trophy to the MVP of the galleryfurniture.com Bowl Classic in Orlando. Please.
I want a
let
lapel
me do
pin
it.
that is unavoidable. I want a lapel pin that is catching your eye the second you see it.
They walk through a press box.
I need you to ask me about my lapel pin.
These bowl executives shaking hands. Like, it's a guy who owns...
You boys look good. You boys look good.
It's a guy
We'll see.
who owns...
You know who else looks good? Navy. Navy looks good. We're going down there. We had a good time down there.
Guy goes into his closet, pulls out a hideous orange jacket, practices his firm handshake, and walks through the press box like he matters.
And they do. They still matter. It's a dream job.
How can they still matter?
That's my end game here, Spence. I am leveraging all my boosting to just be given a ceremonial title with the Orange Bowl committee so I can wear an orange blazer and eat sorbet for the rest of my days.
Your mouth to God's ear. Bring me with you. I will be your assistant. I don't care. As long as I get a blazer. Make it a midriff, though.
Also, Jeremy, Hard Rock Stadium's twice the capacity as the Bounce House in Orlando, so...
I did not have the
Jeremy.
glory of
Bounce D's.
being a bowl executive. I could have gone caviar, champagne, strange choice by you, sorbet.
Soft serve, brother.
Amin will be here shortly. There have been tensions around Amin recently. He was yelling at me yesterday. I was yelling at him. He had an argument on air with Izzy Gutierrez. I believe that Amin is the Stephen A. Smith of Meadowlark Media, wandering from show to show on every show, doing many shows, talking in many places. And I believe we had the equivalent yesterday of the athlete spat on the sideline. I threw down a pen. Valerie says I shouldn't be at work. Valerie says that my grief and my emotions are going to leak out in all sorts of ways that I'm not familiar with. And she says I shouldn't be around people. I'm hiding from most people. Other than you guys, I am hiding from most people. I am not going through all of the cards and texts that I've received, but the outpouring has disappeared, and now what's left is just the pain. I get up in the morning, and I just feel sick every day.
Could you get back to my dad? He's bothering me nonstop about it.
I did think it was awkward, Dan, that you didn't respond to my condolence text, and then the next text I sent was a selfie with Dan Patrick. I just had to let that one rip, pretend like nothing happened.
I should get back to a lot of people.
It's
but
too late for that one. You don't
thank
have to
you.
respond
Thank
to
you.
that one.
And now I've been
My
called
dad
out
used to
on-
like you.
I have not gotten back to anybody. I've been hiding. I have just not been in any way right. And yesterday I got frustrated and threw down a pen, and it skidded across the table, and Amin got mad. And it made me think of how different the athletic worlds are and the media worlds are. I've told you before, right? Seeing Marcellus Wiley and Jalen Rose in a cafeteria at ESPN, and both of them just awed at how insecure the media environment is, because it's not the way a locker room is. People fight, and feelings get hurt, and you just can't be in your feelings when everyone's emotional and stuff and hold on to that in that ecosystem. But in ours, the vanity business, somebody gets their feelings hurt, and Billy Gill doesn't talk to me for 6 months. And we're a different kind of business.
Are you in the middle of that still? Because I can't tell.
It's hard to tell sometimes with him when I ask him questions on air.
That's why we talk so much Marlins. It's just you offering a gambit to Billy. Talk to me.
I would say that's why you and I talk too much. When people drift off into their feelings, this shouldn't be just Billy Gill. It happens to all of us. It happened to me yesterday. But I believe that now Amin is talking too much in too many places, and he resents the company. He's somebody who's working too hard, as he does oddball right now. He's doing it at this minute, and he will be here shortly, perhaps to entertain some of Mike Ryan's thoughts on how ESPN's podcasts are all slandering Tyler Hero again.
Well, I caught this on the internet. They've aggregated Portland Trailblazer podcast, and they've taken the message from on high that Tyler Hero bad. Heat offer bad. In fact, roster that made it to the NBA Finals, all bad. Nothing good.
But not just that, right? Everyone's sleeping on Jovic, right? Like that the Heat believe that can be Danilo Gallinari in 2 or 3 years.
I mean, you don't sound silly with his most recent performances up there. He looks like an incredible asset, but
he's so young. Like this, he still hasn't even grown into his body.
Looks like
yet.
a great scorer, but see, the Miami Heat's offer and assets are what they are because there are no other trade offers out there, and it's cyclical. If there's a better offer out there, Miami's offer will get better, but there's a lot of misplaced anger at the whole Damian Lillard situation, and rather than blame Lillard for this, they'll take their cue from ESPN and the Blazers front office and just get angry at Miami for only offering Tyler Hero, and thus they'll get mad at Tyler Hero to the point that they've convinced themselves that Tyler Hero isn't even a good player. And it's just curious how much influence an entity like ESPN has over all of this. It's to me, it's been a really ugly scenario that's played out in front of our eyes over here between the Portland Trailblazers and Miami Heat with leveraging the media. And I think it'll be an interesting case study if you ever decide to get altitude on it and look back wherever he may go. I think this has been kind of an abuse of of the journalistic enterprise that is ESPN.
I mean, realistically, Tyler Hero is a very, very, very good player. And so I'm hopeful that ultimately ESPN...
We didn't need all three varies. I don't understand. Why do you have to be extra on the Homer stuff?
I have to be extra on everything. I'm a theater kid. Jess was going to explain it. I got in ahead of her.
We didn't
because I have to be extra.
We didn't need three varies on or put it on the poll.
All right, here's the truth. Lewis was in my head saying something about me, saying I need you to carry this. We're dealing with stuff behind the scenes.
Lewis.
He's in my ear.
Right,
we're
Lewis,
talking.
stop being
There's a
people's
break.
heads. Lewis, like, please stop being in people's heads.
Stop talking to us, okay? Do me the favor of getting video functioning today so that I could throw it to a UCF video and stop talking to us. I can't believe you just threw him under the bus like that.
I did. I even went and apologized in his ear while you were doing that. I went in comms and was like, hey, Lewis, I'm so sorry for throwing you under the bus. I messed up.
What you just did is no accountability, and we were just talking. Lewis actually has fairly thick skin under the circumstances. We did not need three varies from you. You blamed Lewis because you gave us three varies.
And I'm very, very, very sorry.
I want Juju.
We also learned from you, Dan.
Well, Lewis is in my head constantly, but I know how to deal with it, and I'm #built different. You can't do that to everybody.
Put it on the poll. Is Mike Ryan #built different? Yes or no? And put also on the poll, is Tyler Hero does Tyler Hero deserve three varies in being a very, very, very good basketball player?
Is Mike trying to insinuate he's more capable of doing professional television with someone in their ear than I am?
Oh, I'm not insinuating it. I'm saying it directly.
He said #built different. That is what he said. And
I've seen your reel. There's some good stuff, kid, but you got a ways to go.
Well, if this segment is in any indication, I don't believe Mike Ryan has ever blamed Lewis for something Mike Ryan said.
He's blamed Lewis for a lot.
Behind the scenes, I'm a pro, kid. You see, this is what I mean. Bally's just putting anybody up there.
Whoa.
Lewis just got in my ear and said he blames me for everything.
Lewis, stop talking. Lewis, go sit in the penalty box.
What?
Go sit in the penalty box. We can't go to video and show you in the penalty box because video doesn't work today. Fuentes, go sit with him.
Hey, there's Amin.
Something has bothered me here recently that I want to get in front of the Miami audience as someone who loves pets and what is happening around Miami, throughout Miami, where some services are breaking and there aren't checks and balances on newspapers being able to call out corruption, and scandal is just replete everywhere. You have a lot of things like Miami-Dade Animal Services falling apart. And there are going to be some protests this weekend, and there have already been some protests because there are 124 dogs in Medley under some pretty appalling conditions, and we're going to help them with some things that they need there, even though I am reticent to give any services in Miami any money to do anything because I'm not sure it'll go to the right places. But we are telling the audience right now that they're going to waive their adoption fees if you use the code phrase LeBatardShow. And we're going to give you some information here on if you want to adopt some dogs. You can see what they look like at 24petconnect.com/MIAD. And we'll put that up there just so that people have it on the screen if video works. 24petconnect.com/MIAD. You just got to be 18 years old. You have an ID. You got a proof of current address. And if you got a collar and a leash, they will waive all of the adoption fees if you want to help these dogs. But there are protests going on because, like I said, there are a lot of things happening all over our city where corruption is replete and services that you want from your community that you have come to expect are not there because a whole lot of people are grabbing at money and power, and there's not a whole lot of people to protect things like the animals. And so if you want to help with this, Lucy, you seem to be made sad by what it is that you've looked up there.
These are some real good boys and girls. Real good.
Yeah.
I want to cry.
Okay, so you can adopt. It's 124 dogs that are under some bad conditions, and we're trying to improve those conditions. Jessica, I saw that Willow was here yesterday, and I again see that there's some general discomfort from Amin. Is there any discomfort from
What?
others? I mean, Amin just doesn't like dogs. He doesn't trust dogs.
I didn't sense any of that. The only person that I sensed discomfort from was David Sampson, who tried to run away from Willow. She thought he was playing a game, so she chased him. Didn't make the situation better. I will probably not be bringing her in again while he's here. However, as I brought in Willow yesterday, and the first person to make a comment was some new guy who's helping us with the lights, and he said every office should have a dog in it. And that made me very happy because she's a very good girl. And I think we need a little therapy animal around here because everyone's in a very sad, intense mood, Dan. And scratching a little puppy under the chin makes everyone feel better.
Shout out to the new guy helping with the lights. Put it on the
They
poll,
look better
please.
already.
At LeBatard Show. Does every office need a dog? I have noticed, talking about people being up in their feelings all the time, that every time there is a new guy or a new person around here whose name that we do not know, I see what happens in Stugotz's eyes, and all he sees is that's money he's not getting.
Yeah, Stugotz is a rare breed that gets mad at other people for him not knowing their names.
Stugotz, I'm not kidding you. This happened on Tuesday. First day after Labor Day, we're an hour and a half into the show. Stugotz comes to me, and as if he's doing it for me, says to me, "Have you noticed no heater breaks today?" He'd quit for 2 hours, and he wanted me to notice and wanted me to feel like he was doing it for me. And it dawned on him as he was saying it. He said, "Why am I doing that? Why am I making it seem like the most self-destructive thing I have to the one tool that keeps my career alive, protecting it for 2 hours by not smoking cigarettes? Why does it seem that I'm doing Dan a favor?" the places that do empirical measurements on traffic have now said that South Florida is so overcrowded and so ill-equipped for the number of people here in America's most expensive housing market that we now have some of the world's worst traffic in this city. And Lucy's been here about 6 minutes. And Lucy says that already, and this happened fast. Jessica, this did not happen this fast to you. Lucy says she's already been broken by the driving in this city.
I bought a baby on board sticker to put on my car in hopes that people.
It's the best idea ever.
I'm 25. I'm basically a baby anyways. But I'm not a good driver, and I really need other people to be a good driver because I'm trying my best. I'm doing the very best I can, but it's still not good. And they're so bad, and it makes me, I've cried like 4 times while driving since I've moved here because the drivers are so bad. You can't just go left. You have to yield. You have to yield. That's the law.
Lucy literally got flipped off this morning just for driving like at a normal speed in the parking garage. Someone flipped her the bird. Explain that. Explain that.
That parking garage is a death trap, too. People go flying through there.
You weren't even at the last one.
I prefer the last one. I prefer the P garage. I preferred it.
The Clevelander
Got
garage.
in and out quicker.
Are you an anxious driver, Lucy? Like, are you not confident driving to begin with? Because this city will steal your confidence.
No, I'm just bad. I'm a bad driver, and I know I'm a bad driver. I'm pretty confident in that. And it is so terrifying. I walk everywhere. If I can walk, I'm going to. It doesn't matter that it's 1,000 degrees outside. That's how much I hate driving here. I hate it. Even though when I walk, I almost get hit by buses, too.
But Tony's mentioned it before. Being a bad driver is a good thing here. Like, you just need to embrace that you're a bad driver and be aggressive and confident, because that's all it takes. You don't need to use turning signals. In fact, if you use turning signals, that's just a weakness and everyone else will speed up around you. It's not going to be a good thing for you. So if you want to get over, just aggressively get into that lane.
I cannot do that. I literally cannot do that.
Probably
also,
shouldn't drive
you
here.
should use turning signals. Why is that a thing no one ever does here? Do they know it's there? Do they know the purpose?
We'll speed up if you use it. You can't get into
It's
the
a sign
lane.
of
Steve Martin
Yeah,
also.
you don't do that here.
Put it on the poll, Juju. Do Miami drivers know that they can use the blinker to change lanes?
It is,
Answer is no.
Lucy, do you follow Only in Dade yet on Instagram?
Not yet. Should
There's,
I?
I mean, it will show you just the sheer amount of carnage on these streets every day. There is a car fire a week in Miami. I do not how are all the cars catching on fire? There will be like a couch in the middle of I-95. A freaking couch.
That's just the temperature.
I lived in LA before this, so I felt like I had dealt with bad drivers. And then the week I moved here, my dad, who works in car insurance, by the way, was down here and was like, I have never seen anything like this in my life. 3 separate times we saw someone confidently driving the wrong way.
I don't know if this information is still true, but at one time, 1 year, the intersection of Pines and Sheridan in Broward was the world's deadliest intersection.
I was told that growing up not to go there. I didn't know that it was actually the deadly intersection. My mom wouldn't let me drive there when I was a kid.
Why are you laughing, Mike? Because it's drivers, because it's like 4 and 5 lanes in every direction, and it's all bad drivers.
Like Lucy said, I think most people project Iowa because she's a big Iowa Hawkeye fan and she went to school there, but she's lived in L.A. for several years, which is reputed to be the worst city in America when it comes to
I am telling you now. I mean, obviously, this is not just me driving around in Miami. I've lived here all my life. I know how bad the drivers are. It's never been this kind of overcrowded. I don't know 10 years from now how many seismic changes are going to endure from things that changed during the pandemic. But one of them was the relationship that people have with their work and where they can work. And Americans have learned that they can work from home. And if they can work from home, they'd rather do it in the warmth. They'd rather do it in nice climate. So we've got a lot of San Francisco and New York, a lot of tech money, just an absurd number of people. I need to remind people of this because they think of Miami as an international city. All of Florida is just a bunch of spring break towns. That's all it is. All of them are Daytona. And Miami's is just browner and has a little more money because it's got a bit of international audience and it's whatever, reputed gateway to the Americas. But
And drugs.
And that, yes, and a city built on drugs. Thank you. Drugs and money and fraud. But we are basically, all Miami is another Caribbean town, not unlike the rest of the Caribbean that happens to be attached to Florida instead of an island. The customer service is terrible everywhere. Oh, look, Lucy, we've hit another Lucy
No
landmine.
one is nice here. I am the type of person where if I'm checking out, I want to have a little chat. I want to know how your day is going. I want to crack a joke or two. I'll be like, hey, how's it going? People just look at me. They just look at me, and it ruins my day. It ruins my day.
You are far too nice for this town.
I
I
know.
say that in the best way, most flattering way. But if I didn't know you and you just approached a conversation with me the way that I think you would, I'd be turned off by it too, and I'd be rude to you.
That was not nice.
It's just I'm like, what's this person?
No, in Miami,
if you approach me with
Yes.
like your jovial self, hey, it's Lucy, and your cute charm and your knitted sweaters, like I would just be like weirded out by it.
It starts with, hey, how are you? Like,
Nope.
I'm not
That's
nice.
that's the bad part.
Not
You
the
lost
town to
me.
be happy in.
Lost me.
I hate it here.
I believe that Miamians are distrustful of overt friendliness.
Yeah.
I literally got extorted like my first 4 months of living here by my landlord at the time. So I'm with Lucy on this one. You guys are just all mean.
I
You
remember,
don't know how to drive.
Yes, that's fair.
I will not take responsibility for the appalling behavior of your landlord.
Well,
I'm kind of proud of it.
I came back from a study abroad program in college, and when I returned to South Florida, I went for a jog around the neighborhood and was making eye contact with people and waving hello and saying hi because that's how it had been where I had been living, and was so jarred by the disdain in the looks from people, and it made me realize, I'm home.
Lucy, is it possible that the people that you are chatting up, and this is possible in various parts of Miami, aren't English speakers? Are you going to places that the people might not be, the service might not be speaking English?
Sometimes I will try hola, ¿cómo estás? To see.
Yeah, that's where you're going wrong,
Like,
my friend.
I'm just
Even worse.
I was gonna paint a nightmare scenario in which why that exchange would go poorly, and it would be you saying "Hola, cómo estás?"
I had a very delightful interaction with a Spanish-speaking woman at my Salvation Army near me, and I couldn't understand anything, but we had a great time. She was so nice to me. She was the only one that was nice to me, except for there have been a few times where I'll go talk to service workers about how crappy the people in Miami are, and they're like, "Thank you, I get it."
You pull up and with your baby on board. I want to hear more
That's
about
amazing
it. Is
that
I want
she
to hear
does
more
that.
about this story. I want to hear the decision-making process. I want to hear where you went to go get it, how you decided all of this.
I got it on Amazon. It will arrive this weekend. I bought it yesterday because I'm not good at driving. I cannot do it. I was like, how can I be safer here? And I have a friend who, she has a not nice car, and she was telling me that people drive a lot better around her because they assume she doesn't have insurance. And my car is a fine, nice car. So I'm like, well, I can't just go get a crappy car. What can I do to mark myself as someone who needs a little extra caution? Baby on board.
I feel so out of touch so many times, and the fact that I just asked you, where did you go get a babies on board thing, as if you wouldn't just order that from Amazon, made me feel almost as bad as getting the intersection wrong. That was the world's most deadliest in 2001. It was Pines and Flamingo, not Pines and Sheridan. Those run parallel to each other. That would be weird if they ran parallel to each other and were causing a lot of accidents.
Over a 2-year period of the study that ultimately named Pines and Flamingo the most dangerous intersection in the nation, there were 357 accidents.
And it wasn't overcrowded then. Now it's overcrowded because that area, we keep building out west on marshland deeper and deeper into the Everglades, into things that shouldn't be built on because we don't have any more space except to go up in South Florida. I I legitimately don't understand how it is that a place like Hialeah is the 5th least affordable housing market in the United States. I don't have a more stunning. We had 7 stats of the day yesterday, a whole week's worth of stats of the day. I don't have a more stunning stat I can give you than Hialeah, the armpit of my youth, being the 5th most expensive housing market in the United States, the least affordable. It just
Booming.
It's exploding.
It's a huge boom town right now.
How is that?
Because it was an affordable part of town, and then all these places gravitated towards it. And for people on a budget that wanted to live in South Florida, that would be where they went. Like, it's a huge boom town.
I did not think it would be possible in my lifetime, given what has happened in general with the climate, for places in South Florida that have never had any money to be gentrified by other parts of the country, and for Hialeah to be one of them. It's one of the most surprising things to have ever happened while I've been living in South Florida.
Well, the good news is that the drivers might be terrible here, and the people might be unfriendly, and your landlord might extort you, but you will also pay a fortune to live here. And there's a hurricane coming.
I got chased by a homeless man the other day, too, so having a really good time.
I think we should come up with Lucy's daily complaints about daily observations about living here. We'll have happy music and then just the sentence, I got chased by a homeless man yesterday.
At 11 a.m.
At least the high is only 93 today.
It is cooling down.
Cool spell.
It is cooling down.
Which was the player that shouted at the U.S. Open that they're trying to kill people?
I think it was Medvedev.
Just because of the heat?
It
Because
was so hot.
fans are